Hello, my name is Jason Johnson. Thank you for watching my videos. This video is going to be Chapter 7 challenges for the Prelude to Programming for Raptor flowchart-based programming software. There's going to be 5 challenges in this chapter, and the first challenge is we're going to input a list of positive numbers terminated by 0 into an array called numbers, and then display the array, and we're going to show the largest and the smallest number in that array. So let's take a look. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to tell the user what we're doing, and we're going to enter up to 10 positive numbers into an array, and then display the smallest and largest numbers. We're going to create our variables, and we're going to need to set our array, and in this case, we're going to set it to 10, and we're going to call it numbers, and then we're going to call this one biggest, and set it to 0, which will be our largest number, and then we're going to set this to smallest, our 0, set our count to 1, and then set our numbers to 1 or 0, and then we're going to come back to our program and we're going to say enter any number except 0, enter 0, and I've got an error here, enter 0 to quit. And let's say enter any positive number, because we need to tell it a positive number. So we need to say, and we need to put this in quotes here. Let's put this all in quotes, so you can see how I need to correct this here. So we're going to say enter any positive number except for 0, enter 0 to quit. And there we go. And then we're going to do our loop here, and it's going to check to say, is our number equals 0? And remember, we set our number to 0 over here. If it is equal to 0, then we're going to say yes, because this is our check, and it'll go and it'll say what was our largest number in the array and what was the smallest number. If it's not 0, we're going to start putting our numbers in up to 10, and we can actually go more than 10, because with Raptor it will increase the array as we're working, but it's going to store the number count based on our number, and it's going to also set our count, and then it's going to ask the user to put a number in again, enter any number except for 0, and we probably want to have this say the exact same thing here. We'll probably want to have that say the exact same thing, so it's getting enter any positive number except 0, enter 0 to quit, and then get number, whatever that number is. And it'll just continue to do that until the user puts 0 in. As long as it's putting numbers, as the user's putting numbers in, it'll continue to go until we put 0. Once it gets to 0, it'll come down and it'll say, check the k, set k to 1, and then we're going to check the biggest number in the array and check the smallest number in the array. And then we're going to loop down here and we're going to count. And we're going to say, is k greater than the count minus 1? If it is, then go ahead and finish and put the numbers out, and we'll show what that is here in a minute. But if it's not, it's going to say the numbers k, what's the biggest? Yes, and it's going to check for the biggest and set the count. And over here, if it's not, it's going to say what's the number for the smallest? Is the number k less than the smallest? So it's going to check the largest and the smallest here until it gets that information, and then it's going to come down and it's going to say given the numbers, and then so it's going to output the numbers array to the user, and it's going to loop and it's going to check our k count again, and it's going to continue to output those numbers to the user until the k count is, or the k is greater than the count. And however many numbers we put in, let's say we put in 4 numbers, the count would be 4, and our k, when we got to 4, because it's outputting those numbers, it would then kick out, and then we're going to put the largest number is whatever was stored in biggest, and the smallest number is whatever was stored in smallest. So let's just take a look at this as it runs, and I'm going to run this fairly fast. So we're going to run it, it's going to output to the user, it's going to create our arrays here, and it's going to create our number array here, and it's set it to size of 10. And we're going to put any positive number except for 0. So let's say 45. And it's going to loop through again. And let's say 56. And then do 8. And then do 98. And then we're only going to do 4 numbers. And then we're going to put in 0 to finish it. And it's going to come down here. And I'm going to toggle a breakpoint right here. So when it comes through again. So what it's doing is it's checking the largest and the smallest here. So see, it's counting. It's looking down through the array. And since it's 10, so it's counted the first one, and since 45 was the smallest, it went ahead and recorded that. Well, and it got to number 2, and 56 is the largest. Well, when it comes through again, it's going to say 8 is smaller than the smallest, so it will replace 45 with the 8. So let me see how that works. See, there we go. So 45 got replaced by 8, and 98 will get, or 56 will get replaced with 98 here as it goes through again. So there we go. So 98 got replaced with the biggest. And then now the K count is greater. And now it's going to output to the user. It's outputting the numbers. It's going through the array and it's saying 10 or 45, 56, 8, 98. And then it's giving the information of the largest number is 98 and the smallest number is 8. So there you have an example of creating a list of positive numbers terminated by 0 into an array. Challenge number 2 is to create a program that allows the user to input a list of first names into one array and a list of last names into a parallel array. The input should be terminated when the user enters a sentinel character, which we'll create, and the output should be a list of email addresses where the address is one of the following form, where we'll take whatever's put in for the first name, dot, whatever's put in for the last name, and then we'll append at the end at mycollege.edu. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create our variables. Now on our variables, we need first name and last name, and we're just going to go ahead and create an array of 10. In this case, we're probably not going to put in 10 for this example when we run through the video, but we're going to create an initial array of 10 for the first name, 10 for the last name. We're going to set our count to 1, and we're going to set our email to quotes so that we can set it to put text in there, and we'll put that in here in just a minute. It's going to come back to the main. It's going to tell the user to, this program will create an email addresses for names that are input by the user in the form of first.last at my college. Then we're going to get to our loop, and it's going to say, is the first name count equal to X? And this is our sentinel character. So if we probably want to tell the user to put an X in, and we will down here. We could have put it up here, but it's going to start into our loop, and it's going to say, is our first count equal to X? If it's not, because the user hasn't put anything in at this point, it's going to come down here and it's going to say, enter the user's first name or enter X to quit. This is our exit point, and it's going to get first count, and it's going to take whatever's in there and put into the array of first for that first name, and then it's going to do the same thing with the last name, and then it's going to take the first name out of the array, or whatever's in the first place and whatever's in the second place for last name, and then it's going to append it in front of at mycollege.edu, and then it's going to output that to email. And then it'll output that to the master console. And it will continue around until we tell it to put an X in there, and then once we put the X in there, then it will kick out and finish. So let's take a look at this in the way it runs. So we've output to the user, we've created our variables, and we can see over here our two arrays. We've created our last array and our first array. Both of those are size 10. And let's put in our user's first name. So let's say Joe Smith. So it's created Joe in the array and then Smith in the array. And now we're going to put in our next user. And if you noticed on the output, it went ahead and put in the output of joe.smith at mycollege.edu. And then let's do Mary Jane. And then mary.jane at mycollege.edu. And then let's go ahead and put an X in here to finish this program out. And for the last name, we're going to go ahead and put an X in there, and it's going to, the last output is going to say x.x, but we would throw that information out as that was our ending part of the program. But this is an example of creating two arrays, first name and last name, and then taking the information from both arrays and combining them together and appending an email address on the end. The third challenge is to input a list of employee names and salaries stored in parallel arrays. The salary should be a floating point number in increments of 100. For example, a salary of $36,000 should be input as 36.0, and a salary of $85,900 should be input as 85.9. Find the mean or the average salary and display the names and salaries of employees who earn within the range of $5,000 from the mean. So whoever earns $5,000 from the mean. In other words, if the mean salary is $45,000, all employees who earn between $40,000 and $50,000 should be displayed. Okay, so we're going to create our variables here. We're going to go, and we need to have, from our information, we need to have name, and we're going to create an array of 10. We're going to create our salary and set that to a size of 10. And we're going to set that to 0. We're going to set this one 2 quotes. We're going to set our count to 1. Our count 2, we're going to set to 0. Our count 3, we're going to set to 1. We're going to do a continue for yes, and this will be to ask the user to continue the program. We're going to set our sum to 0, and we're going to set our average to 0, and then we'll continue with our program over here. So we're going to start this loop here, and if the continue is not equal to yes, if so they put a y in, it will kick out and it will do the calculation down here, which we'll take a look at in a minute. If it's not equal to yes, so it'll say no, then it's going to ask for the employee's name. So we're going to get the name. We're going to enter the employee's salary in increments of 1,000, for example, a salary of 36, 36. And so that's what we're telling the user to do. And then we're going to set the salary to that count, and we're going to start building that array. And then we're going to say set sum to sum plus salary. And then count is count plus 1. This is our counter. And then do we want to get another record? So we're going to put in y or n here. If we put in y, it's going to continue on because continue is equal to y. So we're going to continue. So it is equal, but see, this is saying it's not equal. So it's kind of backward logic there. So it's going to continue while we're putting information in. And then after we say we're done, when we put in a no here, it's going to come down. It's going to say set average to the sum divided by the count minus 1. And then we're going to come into our loop here. And now this is where we're going to use our count 3. Is our count 3 greater than count minus 1? And it's not in this case. So once it gets to that count, so it's going to count however many is in that array, which is our count minus 1. And once count 3 is greater than that, it's going to say, it's going to continue down here while it's not greater. And it's going to say, what is the salary? Count 3. Is it greater than, so we're going to set calorie. We're going to set salary count 3 if is it greater than the average plus 5, or salary count 3 is it less than average minus 5. So this is where we're setting. Remember, it asked us to set in a range of 5,000. So it's saying within a range of 5,000 from the mean. So it's going to check the mean, but right now we are checking to see what our range is. So it's coming down here and it's going to say, what is the average plus 5? What is the average minus 5? And then it's going to get that information. If it is, then it's going to set the count for that. If it's not, it's going to put the name. So if it's within that range, it's going to put the information in there. And then once it's done with that, it's going to come down here. It's going to say, put the average salary is, which we've already created. And then it's going to ask for look for a count here. Is the count 2 equal to 0? If it is, then it's going to say there's no employees who earn within 5K of this average. So because the count. But if it's not, then it's going to come down and it's going to say, check the count 2. If it's equal to 1, then yes, there's 1 employee who earns within 5K. If not, there's 2 employees. There are count 2 employees who earn within 5,000 of the average. So let's run this. So we're going to sell our variables. We're going to set our arrays right here. And then we're going to say enter the employee's name, and let's say Joe. And Joe, let's say, earns 36. We'll just go ahead and we'll just do what the example is. So we've set Joe and we've set a 36. And then we want to enter another record. We're going to say yes. And we're going to say Mary. And Mary, let's say 105. So that's 105,000. And then we want to do another record. And we're going to say Sue makes 95. And then John, let's say John makes 95 too, because we want this to do, oh, because we only put 3 in this case. That's right. So we only put 3. So we did our 3 because it checked our 3 amounts that we put in. Even though we made our arrays 10, we did our array size for 3 for our count, because see, we set our count 3 over here to put in. I thought I put a Y in to continue on. But it's going to say what our average salary was based on these 3 that we put in. What was our average salary? And there are no employees who earn within 5,000 of the average, because it checked to see, were they within average here. Now, if we'd have put in 3 in there, so if we run this one more time, and let's just do that again, and it's going to create our array, and we're going to say Joe makes 55. Yes. Sue makes 57. Yes. Oh, because I put a name in there. That's what I messed up on. Mary makes 48. Put another name in there. And then we'll just say blue, because I'm going to use color names. And then we'll say 85. No, we're not going to do 85, because what's our range? What's our salary range so far? 55, 57, 48. And then let's do 49. And then let's not do another record. And here we go. Now we're going to check our amounts, and we're going to say our average is 52.5, and then it's going to check, and it's going to say Joe is at 55, within that 5,000. Sue is within that. Mary's within that. Blue's within that. The average salary is 52.5. There's 4 employees that earn within 5,000. So what it's doing is it's taking the array, it's taking and averaging that, and then it's checking to see what's less than or greater than 5,000, and then it's including that 5,000 range in this program. Challenge number 4 is to write a program that allows a small business owner to input in parallel arrays the type of item, its cost, and the number in stock. The program should output this information in the form of a table, and you can assume that columns will be correctly formatted at a later time. And the output will look something like this. You're going to do widget, cost, and number in stock, and then Wombat 4759, and it'll have that information. And it will also put it'll build the table. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to build our variables first, and we need name, and we're going to set our initial array to 10. We're going to set our cost to 10. We're going to set our stock to 10 because we need name, cost, and stock. We'll set our counter to 1, our count 2 to 1, and then we're going to use continue of a Y for the user to continue on putting information into the array or anything else to finish to kick it out. And then we're going to tell the user what we're doing, and then we're going to continue our loop here, and we're going to say, is our continue not equal to yes? If it's not equal to yes, then it will come on down and it'll build the table, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. If it is something other than yes, it'll say enter the item's name, so it'll put that in the array, whatever the name is, the item's cost into the cost array, and then it will say enter the number of this item in stock, and so it'll create that information in the stock array, and it'll set our count plus 1, and it'll ask us if we want to continue on, and it will continue entering items until we say no or something other than yes. And then it'll come in and it'll say put item name, cost, and number stock, and then put our lines on here. So it should build our table correctly. We'll see if it works or not. And then it's going to loop, and we're going to use is our count 2 greater than our count minus 1? And then it'll put our name, our cost, and our stock information, and it'll put that as well. So this is our header. It'll put our lines in, and then it will continue to put our information in until we're done, and then finish it. So let's take a look at this as it runs. So it's going to come down here. It's going to create our arrays. So we're creating stock array. We're setting our name array. And then we're setting our cost array. And then we're going to enter our first item's name. And let's just call this one, we're going to use colors again. So we're going to say blue, and we're going to say the cost is 45, and the number of stock is 10. And then we're going to enter another record. So we're going to say yes. So we're going to say yellow. We're going to say the cost is 87, and we're going to say the number in stock is 56. And then let's do one. Oh, we're going to say yes here. And we're going to say red. Cost is 34. We're going to have 45 of those in. And on this time when it comes around, we're going to say no. And it's going to come down here. And then now it's going to build our table over here in our output. And so item name, cost, and number stock. Now it's not going to line up exactly the way it needs to, but it gets kind of close to what you should see, how it's going to build a table for you in the output, because that's similar to what you would do in either Java or C or a programming language when you create a program and then create tables. Programming challenge number 5 is to revise the math test to create a math exam that tests the following. Now, if you've not done the video for the math test, I've got another video that's separate from this one that shows you how to do a math exam for addition. And what you're going to do, if you've done that one already, then you can take that and create this program, and this time we're going to do division. So we're going to do 20 division questions, and the questions should be in the form of num1 divided by num2. Num1 can be any number between 0 and 10, and number 2 can be any number between 1 and 100. And we're going to have the program do that randomly and create those number arrays. And then the output should include the student's score, the number wrong, and a list of the questions missed. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start our program. We're going to say this is a math test. We're going to go to variables. Now our variables are, we need to set our x to 10. We're going to set our number 1 to 0, our number 2 to 0, our answers to 0. Our questions, we're going to set to quotations. We're going to say account 1. response to 0. We're going to set our wrong array or wrong answers to 0. We're going to set our incorrect array to 0. And we're going to set our score to 0. And then we're going to come back over here and we're going to say we're going to load our questions. And on our questions here, this is where the program's going to generate the numbers for us. And we're going to just go ahead, instead of, we're not doing 20, I think we're just going to do 10 on this one. We're going to count between 100 plus 1 and the number 2. Oh, and this one's 10. And then their answers, and then it's going to build those until we get our count. And what did we set our count to? We only set our count to 10. I know it said in our challenge to do 20, but we're only going to do 10 because it's easier. And then so it's going to create all of those. It's going to come back to our main. It's going to take our test now. So now it's going to come over to this subchart and tell the user, hey, we're going to take our test. And it's going to start outputting, and it's going to say whatever's in the array, get the response. It gets a response from the user. And then it's going to say what, question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4. It's going to record those until our count gets up to 10 or X. See, X is 10. And then it's going to kick back out, and then we're just going to grade the test. And when we grade the test, it's just going to set and it's going to check, is our count greater than X? Because our 10 questions. And then if our response count does not equal answers, then it's going to say yes. So it's incorrect. And it's going to say, we need to write that down. What was that wrong answer? Or what was that question? And if it is equal, if it is not equal, it means it was correct. And so it's going to say what the correct count was, and it's just going to put OK for the answer. And when we get our count to 10, it's going to kick out. And then it's going to then display the results for the user. And it's going to just say what the score was, which was our X minus wrong divided by X, which gives us our percentage. It's going to put that percentage out for the user. And then it's going to say you got X amount of wrong out of X of problems. These are the questions you got wrong. And so it's going to go down through the array. And this is where we're going to go down through the array here. And it's going to set the count to 1. And it's going to say, is a count greater than 10? So it's going to count through the 10. If it's going to check for the incorrect. If it's equal to OK, it's not going to output anything. It'll just keep flipping through. So if we got all 10 questions correct, it won't give you any information in the console. But if the incorrect answer is not equal to OK, which means we recorded what the question was, it'll output that to the user, and it'll say, these are the ones that you got wrong. So let's run through this real quick. So it's going to start. It's going to generate our variables. And once it gets here and gets to taking the test, it's going to load all the questions now. And I'll open up the arrays and show you here in just a second once it loads all the arrays. Actually, we can go ahead and do that as it's running. So these are our questions here that it's building. And I'm going to make this go just a little bit faster. There we go. For time's sake. And what it did is it created a random set of numbers here for 1 to 10 and a random set of numbers from 1 to 100. And our incorrect answers haven't been set yet, but our answers are all right here. So it said what was in our array. Take our 2 number arrays, divide those, and these are our numbers here. And now it's going to ask the user, what is 46 divided by 5? And we're going to go through and put each one of those. And we can check our answers here, but let's just put them in correct. So 9.19 and 3 and 2.28, and let's get a couple of these wrong. Let's put in 25 here. Let's put in 0.4 there. 8.45. Let's make that one wrong. Let's make this one wrong. That one's right. That one's right. And let's make this one right. And it's got them all. And so my count went to 11. And now it's checking them. And it's saying, okay, if it was correct, put an okay. If it's not, what was the question that they got wrong? And now it's going to output to the user. Here's the ones that you got wrong. And here were the ones that you got wrong. You got 4 out of 10. You got 4 wrong out of 10 problems. So you got a 60%. And here were the 4 that you got wrong because it went down through and it checked and it said if it was okay, don't do anything. If it wasn't, then output that to the user. So that was an example of creating the math test, but doing it for division. Okay, this was Chapter 7 challenges for the Raptor flowchart-based programming for Prelude to Programming. I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. My students should email me within the course. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe, and remember to be excellent to each other.